But here's what he did.
Rhyme it. Do you know how to rhyme it? Oh, please just rhyme it.
And he really gets into
Do
it.
you know how to rhyme it?
Yes, of course.
We will
you don't even
be
have to think
rocking
about it.
LA. So let's rhyme it today. Rhyme it. We are gonna rhyme it. Just rhyme
That's
it.
where he just rammed it.
Everybody, amazing.
I'm not going to remember any of it.
That's good. That's the way to go.
All over the Rams today and ram it.
I mean, now he's like on his feet.
How are you guys?
Whose house?
Wow.
Ram it.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Rams Brothers the Pod. I'm your host, Dean, and I'm joined by the other host and my brother, Nick. Nick, how are you today?
I'm good, man. Having a good day. Minus the fact that the Rams have been playing horribly. I am good.
It feels like it's been a while. It's been a couple of weeks. We took a few weeks off. Hope everybody had a really happy holiday, a great holiday with their family, a happy new year. The Rams kicked us off the second day of the new year with a loss at SoFi Stadium, 31-10 to the Chargers, which was technically an away game for the Rams. Very, very strange situation that they were in, where it was like 80-20 Chargers fans that own the stadium at SoFi. It's just, and the Rams fall to 5-11, which is the most losses by a Super Bowl defending champion in NFL history, right? So there's like all these statistics that are coming out. Chargers improved to 10-6. Rams fall to 1-6 on the road this year, but they're 4-5 when they're home this season. But it seems like the Chargers are on their way to a potentially deep playoff run. They're getting hot at the right time, and it may finally be time for Brandon Staley and his downward dog to make some noise in the playoffs. I guess we will see what the Chargers are going to be able to do.
I'll be rooting for the Chargers in the postseason.
Yeah, there's no rivalry, it feels like, between the Rams and the Chargers whatsoever. I think that there's a friendly competition, right? They play in the same stadium, but there were tweets that were coming out of the game, like the Will Smith and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, when, this is the name of the friend, DJ Jazzy Jeff gets thrown out of the house.
Yeah.
That's the meme that I was seeing, where there was a ram head on top of DJ Jazzy Jeff and Uncle Phil's throwing us out of the house. So that's not like where the rivalry, I feel like, is going. It's one team that's in a completely separate conference. They look like they're on the right track. The Rams are coming off of a Super Bowl victory. I don't feel that there's a direct competition. Maybe you feel a little bit differently.
No, I don't think so. I think the Chargers are like the 8th most important team in Los Angeles, maybe even lower. They good for them for cultivating something, but as soon as those playoff hopes going into the following years fall apart, I don't think they're going to have as big of a fan base. Was it really 80-20? Is that what people said?
That's what people were saying. Yeah, the stadium was almost at full capacity, which was nice to see. I don't want to be in a situation where, even if the Rams are in an away game and it's a Chargers home game, whatever. But in a situation where it's a Rams home game, you can't get enough Rams fans there. Maybe the other team is lackluster and you see like 75% capacity in that beautiful new stadium is not good to see, but they were almost packed to the brim. I think it was like 98%, but 80-20 Chargers fans.
I hate to say it, but if we were in a situation where this game mattered, I know that there would be a lot more Rams fans there. You like to see fans there at every single game, but because the Chargers had something to play for, their fans are going to show up.
Yeah.
And I understand it, and good for them. They have AFC hopes. They're one of the hot teams right now. I don't know if they'll be on the same level as the Chiefs or the Bengals, but they're pretty good. And it'd be nice to see them make some noise, because they've historically been one of those franchises that just
knocks on the door.
Yeah. Is always there. Phil Rivers did a good job of getting them there, but never over the hill.
I always go back to that Marty Schottenheimer year where they were, I think, 14-2. The LaDainian Tomlinson, I think he broke the touchdown record in that season, and they missed a field goal in overtime, I think, to advance them to the AFC Championship, probably about 15 years ago at this point. But always, I feel like, is kind of the definition of that franchise. They get to where they feel like they need to be, and then to get over the hump, there's teams like Buffalo, Kansas City, right? Everybody's kind of in the way of them kind of taking that next step, but they got a top 5 quarterback. They have an unbelievable head coach who we've grown to love over the last 3 years. Just his career trajectory has been insane. Right now, he's going to be widely considered to be one of the top 10 head coaches in the league, after people were calling for his head earlier this season and last season. So I feel like they're in a really good spot to be able to make some noise. And they're interesting. They have a three-headed monster, right? You see Gerald Everett and Mike Williams and Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler, the bald wonder, Mr. Clean, is just winning people fantasy leagues left and right. And it's what he likes to do. He likes to hold the belt and on social media and show it off. And they're fun. I mean, I have to give them credit where credit's due.
Yeah. And, for Staley, it's nice to see the McVay coaching tree just, go into more and more success, because it's just going to add to his legacy. And Shanahan, because I guess he kind of comes from that tree too.
Well, think about it. Kevin O'Connell has 12 wins this year, right? Brandon Staley has 10 wins this year. Matt LaFleur, hopefully getting the Packers back into the playoffs so that we can knock out the 49ers. Who else is on that coaching tree? Zach Taylor. The damn Bengals look like they're going to be back in the Super Bowl again this year. So McVay's coaching tree collectively has 44 wins this season. That's pretty damn impressive.
Yeah.
Compared to the Rams' 5.
I would have liked to have seen it in I guess the best time to see it is a season where we're struggling, because you don't want to really see other teams doing like super well.
Well, the entire NFL season has been extremely interesting. Like, I feel like this playoff bracket's going to be extremely competitive, right? We're watching a game right now. You got the Bengals and the Bills on Monday night. It feels like a playoff atmosphere completely. You could hear the roars through the TV.
Well,
so it's an exciting time to be a football fan outside of just watching the Rams.
And going into this last week, the Rams actually have something to play for. They sure do. They could send Goff and the Lions to the playoffs if they beat Seattle. And then, is it in Seattle? It's got to be in Seattle.
I'm not sure. Hold on, let me look it up.
I'm almost positive.
I would bet that it's in Seattle, because the game that we played against them was in LA the first time.
Yeah, so it's in Seattle. So they got to take care of business in Seattle. Baker's got to, make some noise. Maybe Baker revenge game, because he didn't get picked up by them.
Yep, it's in Seattle.
Mm-hmm. So if they can beat Seattle, then it would be great for the Lions to have their first primetime game this year under the lights in Lambeau.
Yeah, that game actually got flexed, right? So that's going to be now Sunday Night Football. That's going to be super fun to watch. How about this Lions-Rams parallel that's going on? It could have been disastrous, right? One way Jared Goff could have not been the quarterback that the Lions expected to receive. Matthew Stafford could have not won a Super Bowl. But right now, it's like a love affair between two franchises.
Right. And I saw like the Detroit Rams and people putting our logo on the lion to like show the simpatico relationship. But if there are NFL script writers, if they do exist, and if they are out there, you got to think they want that Sunday night game to matter more.
I would think so.
Because the Lions, it's a win and get in situation if the Rams can take care of business for either team, Lions or Green Bay. So that would be really fun and interesting to watch.
That's the reason why it was flexed too, right? Because the Rams and the Seahawks are going to be playing at 4 o'clock or 1 o'clock, right? So it'll be an afternoon game, and then you see the Sunday night game kind of come around. And for the Lions to even have a shot, right? The fact that they've come back from being 1-7, and they're making a resurgence. What are they, 8-7 at this point, or 8-8? They need another win to potentially get themselves into the playoffs. I'm rooting for them. And if the Rams could do their part and beat Seattle, which I feel like they're very capable of doing, and we get to see the Lions in the playoffs with Jared Goff, I mean, the excitement levels obviously aren't the same as watching the Rams in the wild card round. But if you kind of get, pieces of that, if you get a little Jared Goff at a wild card round, you should see if they're for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns, and bring the Lions for the first time in our lifetimes to a divisional round playoff game. I think all Rams fans will be excited over the fact that the Lions are getting to enjoy some of what we got to enjoy over the first 4 years with Jared Goff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just it's a shame, because they've really been putting in a lot of great effort on that franchise this whole season, only for them to blow so many games early on. But that's the luck of the draw in the NFL. Unfortunately, that's how it goes.
They seem like they just wake up, the Lions, and they score 41 points in their sleep.
Yeah, I thought that Bears game was going to be when they blew it all, but nope. Lo and behold, they took care of business handsomely.
Yeah, but imagine how much better of a position they would be in if they would have beaten Carolina, right, in that game where we felt like they were going to be able to kind of get over the hump. If they're able to win that game and string together 6-7 wins going into this Packers game on Sunday Night Football, that's more interesting to watch. Yeah. I do want to spend some time talking about the Rams over the last 3 weeks, though, because what some of these players are doing, I think, is warranting an opportunity to be a part of the run next year. To keep us competitive within these type of games that seem like they're absolute blowouts, although they're not, right? If you could put together a good game plan, you could, plug the right players in certain positions. And it seems like it's all stuff the year that Cam Akers is having has just been so interesting to study, right? Because this last 4 or 5 week stretch is one of the best stretches he's had in his NFL career. But prior to this, he was in the doghouse. He took a leave of absence. He wasn't a part of McVay's game plan, I think, the way that he wanted to be. McVay was talking about the way that he's responded both mentally, physically, with his heart, right? They feel like that he's a really, really good person and he's capable of being the same guy that he was previous to the injury. But it's when everything kind of starts to come together and you see maybe flashes from a couple of guys in losing seasons, you have faith that you could potentially see them be a part of the offense and be a part of a run in the next coming years. And Cam Akers is going to be in the 4th year of his rookie deal. That this 4 or 5 week stretch is warning him potentially being a starter for this team next year. And if there's additional help that they do need, maybe there's a thought that it'll be a little bit more minimal based on some of the free agents that are out there, right? You may not need to get a Josh Jacobs. You may not need to go after Saquon Barkley. If you feel like you have Cam and you could maybe look at a lower tier free agent, maybe you could build a solid running game. Nick, this is the first Rams running back, Cam Akers, since CJ Anderson in 2018 to have back-to-back 100-yard games on the ground. And it was the first time Cam Akers has done that in his career. My first question for you there is, would you have believed me if I told you that CJ Anderson owned that stat from 2018?
No, I would have thought for sure it was Todd Gurley.
Same.
That's almost remarkable.
Yeah. Yeah.
What were the 2 games? Wait, can I try to guess the 2 games?
Sure.
Because it's not that big of a sample size. I'm guessing it was the San Francisco week, like the final game they played going into the playoffs, and then the playoff game against Dallas.
My guess would be the playoff game against Dallas too. So I guess that's not technically in back-to-back weeks, but I'm going to try to find it right now.
No, it would. Right. It wouldn't
because
be.
right, they took the wild card round off because they had the bye.
Mm-hmm.
So 2018, because that was my thought too, was wild card divisional round because he just owned the Cowboys.
Yeah. And then the game before the divisional round.
So this is week 15, week 16 of 2018. He went against the Cardinals when they won 31-9. He went 20 carries for 167 yards and a touchdown. And then the next week against San Francisco, week 16, he went 23 carries for 132 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have to see his game logs.
I was about to look up in
the postseason to see if he did it 3 weeks in a row, because I feel like that was the 1 week where he didn't.
He probably got like 75.
There's no wild card round, so he did. So technically 3 weeks in a row, right? So with the bye, with the wild card round being a bye, we're not counting that. 23 carries, 123 yards, and a touchdown against Dallas.
Right, so Cam has to do it one more week.
Cam's got to do it again. He's got to do it one more time against Seattle. I think it's possible.
No, he's been the shining star, which has been so weird considering how there was so much. I feel like everything in the Rams organization, if there's any kind of flaw, it has to get out. For some reason, somebody's in there is like leaking everything, because it would have been so much better if the information that Cam, like things weren't going well, if that never came out and it was solved completely in-house, I think it would have had a lot less, fans' heads going which way about him and like changing their opinions about him. I always was kind of, stand strong with Cam. I think he's proven himself, but I also think now we're at a point where the offensive line is getting more comfortable.
Yep.
So I'm not sure how much of it is him, because let's say, 2 people right off the bat, you were telling me yesterday, Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, both free agents next year, right? Like I would take either of them. Maybe you could convince me Cam Akers has more of an upside than Miles Sanders, but Josh Jacobs, if that's on the board and we're getting Stafford back and Kupp and maybe Robinson starts to mold into some kind of, profitable receiver for them, then I'm like, let's get Jacobs. This guy's, proven him way better.
I think to me, that's potentially the direction you go in the offseason, right? Is you try to bolster up the unit up front, right? If you can consistently get push up front and you can be a team that has depth in those situations, and you could win games because you're tough up front. You're tough at the line of scrimmage. The point of attack is so important. I think that that's where they need to be. But to your point with Josh Jacobs, in the last 5 games, I'm just going to go off with Cam Akers' numbers in the last 5. 91 touches, 83 carries, 8 receptions, 408 rushing yards. It's an average of 4.81 yards per carry. So just to give you a frame of reference, and I'm going to go back to Josh Jacobs for a second. But first, Khalil Herbert. He is the leading rusher in terms of running backs with 5.72 yards per carry. But Cam Akers also contributed 75 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns in this 5-game span. But if his yards per carry, Nick, I felt like have held up this entire year. So, for example, if he was at 4.81 yards per carry the entire season, then he would be above players like Jalen Hurts and Isaiah Pacheco and Christian McCaffrey and Kenneth Walker in terms of yards per carry. Josh Jacobs, he lives above that, right? Like that's a guy that has been doing this the entire season. So if you want this 5-game sample size of Cam Akers to be stretched out throughout 17 games, you're going to potentially need somebody like Miles Sanders or Josh Jacobs to be able to come in and carry the load. Because what Cam Akers has shown us outside of these 5 games, I don't think is enough to be able to carry the load for an entire season.
Right. That's exactly how I feel. But like, I would still keep him. I would try to keep him as like
the last year of his deal. So he's not going to really cost you anything next year.
Right. Unless they, make a deal with somebody that's like sweeten the pot with Cam Akers. But
yeah,
that would be the only way I can see them parting ways with him.
The question that we're all probably asking ourselves is he the guy? Like, is
the question I'm asking myself is, where is Darrell Henderson? where did he go? Nowhere.
Nowhere.
Nowhere. He got dropped.
Currently not signed.
Isn't it weird? You think that somebody would have scooped him up by now? I mean,
is that the end of his NFL career?
I hope not. For his sake, I feel like he has more to offer.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Well, it's Darrell Henderson is not going to be. Maybe he comes back. Maybe he's the 3rd back next year. But if he had an attitude problem, the Darrell Henderson's situation was something that they completely kept in house. There were no rumors. There were no leaks. It was like Darrell Henderson is released. The Cam Akers stuff all leaked. Right. It was like Cam Akers has an attitude problem. He's not getting along with Sean McVay. He's taking a leave of absence. He's missing practices. Like, for this to fully turn onto its head and for Cam Akers to actually be the lead back in this offense in week 17 of this season is pretty hard to believe. But I think that, Nick, like his receiving total yesterday should have been much higher. That drop down the sideline that we saw on the left sideline on that first down play, that's a big miss. But then the way that he picks up,
he could have went to the house with that one.
He would have housed it for sure, and the receiving numbers would be totally inflated. And you'd add another touchdown to that stat line I read off. But the way he's been picking up the blitz on that big play to Hopkins, I feel like he's earning snaps on his numbers isn't necessarily being called, right? When the ball's not in his hands, running backs have to be able to earn time on the field without, you're running the ball for 6-7 yards. You have to be able to block. You got to be able to pass protect, all those things. So pretty interesting to see with Cam. The offense, I think in general, like the fake jet sweep to Tutu Atwell into the 90 toss, which led to Cam Akers' long 42-yard run. It was the 2nd longest run I think I've ever seen him have. I think it was his 2nd longest in his career. Yeah, he did. He had a 61-yard carry against the Niners in 2020. This highlight, Nick, if you have a chance to go back and watch it, Goff gives him the ball. Robert Woods comes up and taps him on the helmet, and then Josh Reynolds gives him a hug. It's like they're all gone. Just such a weird clip to watch because Cam looks now, finally, in the most recent game that we watched him, like he did back in 2020 when he was a rookie.
Yeah, that 2020 season always kind of is what us Cam Akers believers harken back to. Because at a time where the defense was the focal point of the Rams, they were the number 1 defense and they, were standing tall. The offense was kind of struggling. Cam Akers was like this shine of like, oh boy, maybe if we get him to like where he is 100%, maybe he's like a little bit of the Todd Gurley that Goff needs. And then from there, we'll see where we can build. And then they were like, nope.
Yeah, no, just it didn't work.
And then
that picture of Danny Jones and Saquon Barkley, man, that reminded me exactly of what we saw with Gurley and Goff.
Yeah.
Like, let's build our next 10 years, right? Like, we're good. These are our 2 guys. And it doesn't always work out that way.
Right.
It's so tough. I felt like the offense early on in this game, when they were still hanging around a little bit, like the misdirection play and then the inside give to Brandon Powell, which was his only carry of the game. I thought that there was some masterful play calling earlier on in this game, and the sequence of plays that they've been calling is giving them a chance offensively, at least in the beginning of games. And you saw it later on in the Raiders game. You saw it a little bit later on in the Christmas game, right, where they're just kind of pounding and are able to just make things click on offense. But like they do things that I think are what it's emblematic of what you do when you have a really good head coach. Like you could be really competitive for a couple of quarters when you don't necessarily have the personnel, but you're a well-coached team. 4 of 11 on third down, Nick. I'm almost 100% positive all 4 of those first downs, those third down conversions came in the first half, right? There's like a severe drop off instantaneously after the first half with this team in this game. And it's kind of tough to watch. Like I'm happy about the progression that Baker Mayfield and Van Jefferson have been making. Again, he's gotten 8 targets over the last 2 weeks. He's caught 6 for 96 yards. And he's really their only threat offensively downfield. And it's so clear that Sean McVay still wants to be able to throw the ball downfield when he has the opportunity. If Sean McVay could marry something outside of his wife, I think it would be a long developing pass play. And that's what you get a little bit with Van Jefferson. Allows you to open up the offense. And Baker, when when things kind of break down a little bit and he's got to improvise and he's got to make stuff up on the spot, I feel like he's done a pretty decent job of being able to locate Van Jefferson down the field. It makes the game less painful to watch, in my opinion.
Baker Mayfield did that thing, which I'll demonstrate to everybody.
Yeah, please get up and do it because I know exactly what you're going to do.
Yeah, because he used to do this all the time. It's like he gets the ball and he does like
the leg kick.
he does like a leg kick in the air to like start running, which is like the same thing I would do at recess right before I was about to get tagged.
I think what I would like to do.
It's like a Mario air jump.
Yeah, for the next season of Rams Brothers for season 6,
That's
I want to
be in the intro.
Put a headset. Yeah, we're going to cut the intro, but I want to put a headset.
No. We're not going to cut it. We're just going to change it up.
Change it, condense. We'll talk about it. I want to put a headset for some episodes on you so that we can get some physical comedy.
What do you mean a headset?
Because you could have gotten up. I could have heard you take me play by play through the kick, right? And what you saw on the field, if you saw the linebackers coming in, like I wanted you to give us kind of like a virtual reality lesson.
The ultimate goal for this is just full Manning cast. It's just me and you doing our own Manning cast while the Rams games are playing.
Maybe that's our next step.
Yeah.
You never know. I'll take it. I can't fucking hear anything, Eli.
Okay. That's a pass breakdown right there.
Okay.
Eli on his own.
Okay,
struggle.
Peyton can't hear anything, guys.
Yeah. Everybody's biggest gripe with the Manning cast is that it's too awkward, and I'm like, that's my favorite part about it.
That's the best part.
Yeah, like these two are trying to be entertaining, and they're just like always looking at each other like, was that funny?
That's because you're always a little bit more self-conscious, I think, when it's you and your brother on the screen, because it's like a family representation of you trying to do something new.
9 out of 10 of the jokes are always about the forehead too.
Yeah, not cool, man. Give him a break. He's got so much knowledge stored up there, so many cans on each play.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing. Before we get into the defense too, because we're going to switch sides, I want to bring to you our sponsor, one of our sponsors, but it's going to be the only sponsor in this episode. It's BetOnline. Basketball's back in the new year, obviously. Football, playoffs, everything is heating up right now. It's a fun time of year. BetOnline remains your number one source for all sports and betting needs this season. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. And as your continued source for all sports wagering information, BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest, always the easiest way to bet all of your favorite sports and events, whether that's NFL, NBA, NHL, MMA, tennis, boxing, or even golf. Head to betonline.ag today to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with the first deposit. Make sure you use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your rewards. BetOnline, where the game starts. Believe, promo code right there. The defense, it's been a roller coaster the entire season. 1 week, I think that Raheem Morris is incredibly smart. I think that the defense has some talent on it, and there's some young players that have shown the ability to step up. Even without players like Aaron Donald, you cut Justin Hollins, you lose Ashawn Robinson to injury. Greg Gaines is limited on snaps. Like, you just don't have what you feel like you need to have defensively in order to stop this type of offense. I just felt like they had no answer for Mike Williams or Keenan Allen whatsoever.
No, and say what you will about the Colts, they did a really good job of showing what you need to take down and how to stop this Chargers offense.
Yeah.
And it's, they showed the Rams just showed way too much zone to leave these guys open right in the middle of the field, which, I mean, honestly, if you want to write the story of this season, I think a lot of people are going to want to start with, the offensive line and, all the injuries. But these Rams have been hanging around in these close games despite all of the injuries.
Yeah.
And the defense has really been holding teams to nothing. Like, they are giving them everything that they need. And not that the offense really put up any points. I mean, I think it was 10 total.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like everything the Chargers wanted on offense, they got.
Unfortunately. I felt like it was one of the best offensive performances that the Chargers have had, mistake-free. I think there were 2 penalties. They were 8 of 13 on third down. But like defensively, if you flip it, 431 total yards allowed, 7 yards per play allowed, 7.7 in the air, 6.2 averaged on the ground. Herbert was 21 of 28 for 212 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, they pitched a perfect game against Raheem Morris's defense. Unfortunately, the 8 of 13 third down conversions is specifically because pressure's so goddamn lackluster, and it has been all season. Like, we got 0 sacks on the day. You couldn't force a single turnover. I felt like it just went from bad to worse once the offense started to stall, which is, I feel like, it's somewhat normal in the NFL, right? If an offense kind of starts to stall, the defense is out on the field more often. The offense is running the ball well. It's a time of possession battle. They're winded, right? There's a number of things and factors that kind of come into that equation. But I felt like for what the Chargers were able to accomplish against the defense who's been playing mediocre all year, but good enough to potentially keep you in games, that showed me that the Chargers are good enough to win a couple of playoff games this year.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think they're going, but like we always said, their story's always written. They have to get out of the wild card round.
Yeah.
Like their story always ends like right around there.
Yeah.
So if they're able to do that, yeah. I mean, I don't really know who they're lined up playing right now. I actually think it would be the Jags. So that would be a pretty great matchup for them.
I would say so.
Because I think they're the best of the wild card teams. And it's Jags or Titans. And I'll take the Chargers on either of those 2 games.
Let me see if I could find the AFC playoff picture.
I think it's the Jags because they're the best. Or
it's the Jags.
Yeah, it is. It
would be the Jags. Yep.
But the Ravens.
Jags.
How many wins do the Ravens have?
The Ravens are 10-6. So they're the 6th seed. They're going to be at Cincinnati, who's the 3rd seed.
Okay.
So it would be the first round bye would be the Chiefs. They're 13-3. And then 2 against 7 would be Buffalo against New England in Buffalo. And then 3 versus 6 would be Cincinnati versus Baltimore in Cincinnati. And then 4 versus 5 would be Jacksonville at Chargers, or Chargers at Jacksonville. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take the Chargers every day of the week in that game.
Yeah, exactly. So, although I don't know, I love Doug Peterson and I love Trevor Lawrence, and they've been playing really well. You never know. I think that like we've heard Sean McVay say this countless times, but I think it's really the truth, and it's kind of emblematic of what this whole season has been. Like, the way you call games offensively totally depends on how your defense is handling the challenge that's presented in front of them. Like, if you feel obligated to catch up in a certain situation, the last 4 drives, Nick, in this game ended the following way, and it's why this game seemed to just steeply drop off a cliff. Fumble, punt, punt, punt. 5 plays, 3 and out were those 4 drives. So a total of 45 yards in 4 series after the Chargers went up 24-10 in the beginning of the 3rd quarter. Like, the game it's a steep decline. And when you allow 192 yards on the ground between Eckler, Joshua Kelly, and Roundtree III, Like, it's really tough to overcome because how it affects time of possession and the three-headed monster, right? Of those three guys plus the three pass catchers and Mike Williams and Keenan Allen and Gerald Everett, like, it was way too much for us to handle. And you saw young guys getting exposed. I think schematically, something needs to change. I don't think the bend, don't break methodologies is sustainable throughout an entire year after year after year. When you have a personnel drop off, clearly it was sustainable in the Super Bowl year when you have a high powered 34 points per game offense. But when things drastically change, you have to be able to schematically change things up to benefit the personnel. Not something that Raheem Morris doesn't know. There's no shot I'm saying that I'm smarter than him. Just saying that what needs to be said is you could make adjustments and be a better defense instead of going the opposite direction.
And it's funny, I would think going into this year, he was probably one of the most likely candidates to get a head coaching job next year. And now I would think he's like towards the bottom of the barrel.
100%.
They needed the defense to be anything this year to have any kind of hope. And time again, the defense is just giving up so many points. Like you said, when you're also putting up a lot of points, you can kind of, you can worry more about turnovers than the amount of points you're giving up. But, some of these guys are showing life. Kobe Durant, I really like what I'm seeing from him. And, but boy, oh boy, without Aaron Donald out there, the Rams defense is just pitiful.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm actually looking at the top 5 NFL offensive coordinators who could become head coaches in 2023. I have one thought, and then I'm thinking that Raheem Morris is going to be on the top 5 list for defensive coordinators who could potentially become head coach in 2023. I want to see where he's ranked.
Which is already harder.
Yeah. But my thought was, and since this has happened to us so many times, I would like to see the Rams go poach an offensive coordinator from a team that has essentially already stolen one from us. So Brian Callahan is the offensive coordinator of the Cincinnati Bengals. They've had a really good year this year again. I mean, they know how to get the ball in the hands of their top playmakers. They have a solid running game with Mixon. And then who's the backup? Is it P. Ryan? No.
Yeah, Sebastian.
Is it P. Ryan?
Sebastian.
Yeah, there's almost no drop off between an all-pro running back and a 4th round, 5th round pick. I think that's an opportunity, right? You steal Zach Taylor away from the Rams, the Bengals, they go to the Super Bowl, could potentially go again. And then you can kind of flip it and take Brian Callahan to become our offense coordinator when Liam Cohen goes back to the University of Kentucky. And then defensively, I think that's a different story, but just something I'm looking at in terms, because I think that's going to be a big off-season topic is coordinators who are potentially going to be poached as head coaches in 2023.
Yeah.
The Broncos are going to be looking for somebody with no Nathaniel Hackett. I'd bet my life that the Raiders fire Josh McDaniels at the end of the season. So they might be another squad.
I was leaning towards that, and then Colin Cowherd's got to get on his show and say, if they trade Carr, they have like 11 picks. And
yeah, well, I'll tell.
And then like McDaniels is like Brady's buddy.
And Brady goes back with McDaniels.
Yeah, that's the only reason I think that they might keep him. But I mean, crazier colludings have happened. I don't think.
Yeah, crazy things have happened.
But so then, like, I think the most boring thing that would happen would be he stays in Tampa. He just doesn't go anywhere.
I don't think that's going to happen if he's like gearing up for another run. That's going to be him trying to go to another team. It's Tom Brady. Like if they have 11 picks and they have guys like Darren Waller. Right. And they have, what's his name? Adams again next year like that. Why would you not want to go throw him the ball? The defensive coordinators who are available for head coaching positions, it's from Pro Football Network. I think my list would probably be very similar, except they'd probably have Jonathan Gannon below Leslie Frazier and Ejiro Evero, who was a former Ram. So D'Amico Ryans for the 49ers, top of the list. Jonathan Gannon, 2, Eagles. 3, Leslie Frazier from the Buffalo Bills, potentially be an option for us, although it seems like the Bills could let up a lot of points in prime time. So Ejiro Evero for the Broncos, defense coordinator, probably their most talented coach on the entire roster. That might be an internal hire, right? And then there's Dan Quinn, who coached the Falcons in the Super Bowl, is now the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys, which is a good hire for them. They have 2 really good coordinators holding one leg of Mike McCarthy is Kellen Moore, and then the other side is Dan Quinn just holding him up and keeping him alive.
Yeah.
So
Gannon started out the year pretty hot, but they are like now last in turnover differential.
Yeah.
I don't know if he would keep it. I just don't think he has enough experience. I mean, this is his first year as a DC, right? Or am I wrong on that?
Who's that?
Gannon.
This is his second year.
Second year. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. I mean, I think he's one of those guys that this team is so damn good offensively that it's kind of disguising some of the inefficiencies they have on defense. Plus, they got a couple of injuries down the stretch now too, right? Like CJ Gardner-Johnson is hurt, defensive back that they need. They're banged up. I think Jordan Davis got hurt, right? They're banged up front a little bit. Lane Johnson's hurt on the offensive side of the ball. Obviously, Jalen Hurts is banged up. So I don't know. Yeah, I think Gannon's he's not somebody that I would bring into the building and be like, okay, our defense is going to be top 3 all of a sudden.
yeah. I feel like a lot of pieces have to already be put in place.
Yeah. I think
And
Ejiro Evero would be fun because he was a former Rams assistant. You get him to come back, I would like that. And the Broncos have a great defense this year.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the one I think I'm going to circle. Ejiro.
So you think we're losing Raheem next year?
Well, I mean, that's the other question, right? Because I listed 5 offense coordinators and 5 defense coordinators who could potentially get poached for a head coaching position. So where does that leave Raheem? It leaves him with the Rams still.
Right. Which
I don't know. I don't know if I knew Raheem personally and he was in the building and I was confident that he was going to switch up the scheme and he had a story to tell in terms of where he wants to bring the defense next year with, X, Y, and Z personnel. Sure. But I think he kind of has to state his case in order to make a running for next year. Although maybe I'm crazy. Maybe he won a Super Bowl and they think he's great.
Right. I wonder how much of the Super Bowl still lurks or, is on top of the mojo of that team, or if they did plenty. So bad that it's kind of like this year was such a catastrophe with the run it back that they're kind of just yeah, we don't really, you want us a Super Bowl. Great. We're here to win a lot more than just one.
Right.
Right. So maybe he does have to plead his case, but maybe that's, it's just so weird with McVay. I thought McVay was going to be our coach for the long foreseeable future. But now it seems like he doesn't really even want to coach into his old age. So who knows?
Yeah. Well, I think he's kind of coming around a little bit. I think he's had a good few, 3-4 weeks with the holidays, had a chance to relax a little bit, but I don't think this team is killing him deep down the same way that they did earlier on in the season. At least they're trying, they're fighting, they're at least kind of sticking together. The continuity's there up front, at least a little bit. So it's not a revolving door on the offensive line. Quarterback's not getting killed. Running back, who was a pain in the ass earlier on in the season, has become a top guy, right? So things are kind of slightly falling into place. I think my last comment on the defensive coordinators is that if there's a guy like Ejiro Evero and D'Amico Ryans and Jonathan Gannon, they're not going to go diagonal with a move, right? They're not going to go from defensive coordinator of the Broncos to defensive coordinator of the Rams. They're going to look for a head coaching job, right? So it's not like one of these guys is just going to fall into Los Angeles and we're going to have the top 5 defense all over again.
Right.
So I think the odds, I think, are heavily in favor of Raheem still being the defense coordinator.
Yeah, I would think that would be where they land, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap it up, you and I both have the game on in the background. So what happened?
Yes.
Is it's suspended right now? Is he okay? Is it Hillman?
CPR on the field. I'm seeing Bills players in tears. I'm hoping the game
canceled.
Yeah, I don't know why they would even continue the game.
I think that's what they're going to end up doing.
I think the fans just booed. So I think they're going to keep playing. That's my thought.
That's it's a good inkling.
But I don't know. I hope they don't. For the the football is not as important as a man's life.
No, this game gets a little crazy. I think it's one thing to remember, in the holiday season, love your family, be with your family, be close together, because this game is so neat.
Took some time off to do all those things.
Yeah, we did, and we apologize, but we're back 2 episodes a week for the rest of the year. No worries there. It's one of those situations where it's I'm happy that the Rams won last year. Like it's another, and it's not even the right thing to say. Being the first thing that we should be saying is hope the guy's okay and praying for his family and his friends and everybody around him, the whole team. But you're just kind of happy that you have memories like that, right? Like because the thing with Tua earlier on in the season and this situation, it gets so scary, and I don't know, it's kind of like a turnoff almost.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, boys, we will be back, and girls. Rams Brothers will be back for the rest of the year. Gonna have a fun off season. Gonna have a fun last game of the season. I'm pumped to preview the Seattle game, knowing the indication or the potential playoff berth for the Lions. I'm looking forward to that. So,
And we got one more Knicks picks where we're going to break down all the money that we made this year.
Love it. Can't wait. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for being a part of this. Thank you guys for sticking with us during this break that we took. We love you guys, and we'll be back soon.
Yeah. Horns up, guys.
Peace.
It's been a long season. Thanks for joining us on the ride.
Long season. Appreciate you guys. Go Rams.
Peace.